So if you are wondering why I am comparing these two shoes, it's because that when I seen the official stats of the new updates on the Magic Speed, it got a really big stack increase and it upgraded the foam to the FF Turbo foam. So I thought it was gonna step on the toes of the Superblast just a little bit. So I thought they were jumping into the Super Trainer category. Shoe comparison I got for you guys today, we've got the ASICS Magic Speed 4 up against the ASICS Superblast 2. So we're going to go through their key features, their similarities and their differences, and hopefully from that, that's going to give you guys a great indication of choosing the right shoe for you. But before we get into it, a big shout out to my #1 running store, the Running Company at Geelong. I've got a link to their website in the description. Make sure you go check out that and check out all their running gear. And also guys, if you haven't done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And checking out our quick specs here, so what's jumping out to me is certainly the big price difference between these two shoes. $70 more expensive in Australia for the Superblast over the Magic Speed, and a $30 difference there in the US. Now in the weight, these two shoes, there's pretty much nothing between them because I've measured both these shoes, both in my size, and there's like 2 grams difference. So you're splitting hairs here between that, and in the stacks as well. Wearing both these shoes on at the same time, you can't really tell the difference, but they're both really high stack shoes, and obviously they've got the same drop as well. And in our uppers here, so both use a type of engineered mesh, however the materials are quite different. So with the Magic Speed, it certainly feels a lot thinner and it doesn't feel as premium as what you're going to find in the Magic Speed, but the upper here, material that they use here, super breathable, it's very nice. Now with our heel counter here, it's still pretty solid, but it doesn't have a solid heel counter. You can still, it's got a little bit of play there, as you can see. Padding wise, a minimal amount of padding around the heel collar, so it's quite a slim down, racy type feeling upper here. Super thin tongue with a couple of pads just on the top to take the laces pressure off. But yeah, overall, no bells and whistles here. The tongue, yeah, it's gusseted here, so that one is not going anywhere. Now the fit in the Magic Speed, true to size, and in the width, I would say it's pretty normal for an ASICS shoe. Now the build quality of this one, or the materials that they use, as I said before, it doesn't feel as premium as what it does in the Magic Speed. And step-in comfort, it's okay, but obviously you're not buying this shoe to feel a whole lot of comfort. Now with the Superblast 2, so a very premium, thick feeling engineered mesh at the top here. It sort of feels like a bit knittish, but it's not a knit material. But still, with this quite thick upper, the breathability is still very good, which is surprising because it looks like it wouldn't be too breathable, but it certainly is. Now, we've got a pretty solid heel counter here as well, so it's more solid than what you're going to find in the Magic Speed, so there's a little bit more structure there, and we've also got a heel tab here in the Superblast, which the Magic Speed doesn't have. In the padding department around the heel collar there, we've got more padding around the Superblast, so a bit more comfort has been built into this shoe. We've still got a pretty thin tongue here, but it is thicker than the tongue that you're going to get in the Magic Speed, and it is made out of a different material, so it's certainly a softer material. Still just a couple of small pads on the tongue, and this tongue is also gusseted. Now the lockdown in both shoes, I didn't mention, is both pretty good, so I haven't really had too much of an issue. Had a little bit of an issue at the start with the Magic Speed, but just some laces correction has fixed that up for me. Now the fit for the Superblast, it's the same length as the Magic Speed, so it's true to size. And in the width, I'm gonna say it feels a little wider, like a touch wider than the Magic Speed, and I think there's a little bit more volume as well in the toe box of the Superblast over the Magic Speed. And in our outsoles here, so it's great to see that both these shoes now have both got ASICS grip. So the ASICS grip rubber is definitely a market leader now. It doesn't falter in any conditions, and I absolutely love it. So the big difference between these two outsoles is obviously the tread pattern and the rubber coverage. So with the Magic Speed, it's much more of a slick finish or tread pattern. So obviously you don't have little lugs to come out and grip into the road. It's quite smooth just to add efficiency to the ride. But this tread pattern is just what you're going to see in the real performance or the racing shoes. So your Metaspeed Sky and the Edge. So they've also got this tread pattern up in the forefoot. But this shoe's pretty much got full rubber coverage. Everything that touches the ground, it's got rubber on it, and it goes right down to the high wear areas at the back. What's also going on here is probably what you can see there, a huge groove in the middle of the shoe there, and you've got an exposed carbon plate through the bottom. So obviously this is for a bit of weight reduction as well, but it also adds to the ride. So it also lets this midsole splay a little bit and adds a little bit of softness to the ride. Now, Superblast tread pattern here, so you'll notice they don't have complete rubber coverage. They've just got it segmented off, and they've just got it where they need it, covering all that exposed foam in the bottom of the shoe. But the tread pattern here, they've got tiny little lugs, and so obviously that's going to give you better grip on varied surfaces. So obviously not on technical trails or anything like, but it can certainly handle the dirt road and some grass and certainly the bitumen. But again, great grip, durability is going to be excellent. And all that exposed foam, it's certainly protected enough from where they've placed the rubber on the bottom of this shoe. And in our midsoles, we've got two very different things going on here. So with the Magic Speed, you will notice that it's got a big FF Turbo printed on the side of the shoe there, but don't be fooled by that. The majority of foam in this shoe is actually FF Blast Plus. So we've got two layers of FF Blast Plus. So we have got a top layer that your foot actually sits on, and then under that they have got a carbon resin plate. So it's not a proper carbon fiber plate where you can actually see the fibers, so you can actually touch that and you can feel it just sounds like plastic or like a nylon plate. And then under that they've got a bottom layer of their FF Blast Plus as well. So if you're wondering where the FF Turbo is in this shoe, so they've got an actual cutout under the carbon plate. They've got a little shape like this, like a little rectangular shape, or I've seen around that it can be called a puck. They've got a bit of a puck of the FF Turbo foam just in the forefoot. So when you're really putting some speed into the shoe, that's when you're going to dig into it and you're going to feel that pop out of the turbo foam. Now, rigidity-wise, I'll go into the rigidity. This carbon plate or this carbon resin plate is not as stiff as a carbon plate. So it's still a stiff shoe, but there is a little bit of play there, as you can see there, good amount of snapback. So I wouldn't dare try to bend a real carbon plate like this because I'd be afraid that it would snap. Now with the Superblast 2, so brand new foam, they've got their brand new premium foam in this one. So it's not the FF Turbo like they've used in the Magic Speed. They've got the FF Turbo Plus, and that's the one in the brand new Metaspeed Sky and Edge, and I really love that foam in those racing shoes. So we've got a big slab of that in this shoe, so that's the top layer, and it takes up the majority of foam in this shoe. And then under that, they have just got this really thin layer of FF Blast Plus, so just like they do in the Magic Speed. A plate though, there is no plate in this shoe. However, this shoe is still pretty stiff. So it's obviously got a different flex point, and it's definitely not as stiff as the Magic Speed, but it's still stiff. It's still a pretty stiff shoe, especially knowing that it doesn't have a plate in it. Now, the geometry of both these shoes is so they've both got forefoot rockers, but they're very different and they feel very different on the foot. So with the Magic Speed, the rocker in this one is quite late in the shoe. So it's quite late and it gets quite aggressive, and you can really feel it coming into play when you start running at some faster paces. Whereas the Superblast, it's got more of a gentle type rocker. So it starts a bit further back, and it's certainly not as noticeable as you're running as what you're going to find in the Magic Speed. So yeah, far more gentle, and it's far more accommodating to running at slower paces. And with our rides here, so two very different experiences. So with the Magic Speed, so straight out of the box, this shoe for me felt really firm and quite stiff, and I didn't really enjoy it. However, the foam broke in really quickly. This FF Blast Plus really softened up. However, it's still a pretty stiff ride. So the word I'm going to describe it as is it's responsive, but it's like a muffled responsive. So there's a bit of squish. There's not a lot of snap back energy return. There's a bit of sink, especially through the rear of the shoe, and then once you get onto this rocker, then you feel the responsiveness and the snap of the shoe. So it certainly doesn't feel responsive throughout the shoe. So through the rear and the midfoot, it just feels like you've just got that squish and that dull sort of sensation that FF Blast Plus gives you. So it's a slow bounce back, but once you pick up the speed and you start hitting this rocker and you start digging into that turbo, that's when you feel this shoe becomes responsive, and it is quite nice. So this rocker, as I said before, it's quite late and it's certainly engineered for speed and performance. So this feels great the faster you run in it. So really, really nice, and still with all that FF Blast Plus in the front of the shoe as well. It's not overly harsh and too responsive, so it's still got a bit of sink and capture before you do pop off and you feel that really responsive feeling. So it's quite a unique feeling, this shoe, and it did catch me by surprise. So I'm actually enjoying it a lot more than what I thought I was going to enjoy. So yeah, definitely engineered for the speed stuff. Certainly a lot softer through the heel than straight out of the box, and this one is certainly softer through the heel, believe it or not, for me, than the Superblast 2. So the Superblast 2 for me, so the first word that comes to mind for me here is responsive. So this entire shoe, because it uses this FF Turbo Plus foam throughout the shoe, it's consistent no matter where you hit in the shoe. And it's, for me, it's on the firmer side and it's responsive. So there is no real sink into this shoe for me. You sink into a little bit, but then it's a quick snap back, and it's a quick amount of energy return, but there's not a lot of sink, and there's not that much fun and enjoyment for me because I don't sink into the foam enough. I've tried hitting the rear, I've tried hitting the front and the midfoot, and it's the same thing for me. So it's just overly responsive, but super stable. So it's got a really, really wide platform. So yeah, you're not going to roll your ankle over in this one unless you catch it really wrong, whereas the Magic Speed, you can catch that. It's quite thin through the bottom of the shoe, and that one is quite easy to go over in. So you just need to be wary about that as well. But yeah, I was quite surprised with, in the end, because I've got a lot more Ks in this. I've nearly got 100 Ks in the Superblast, where I've only got around 30 Ks, but all mainly fast stuff in the Magic Speed. And the Magic Speed is certainly through the rear, as I said before, it's softer through the rear, and it feels a little bit more enjoyable through the rear. And so best shoes for both these shoes now, it's very evident to me to see that the Magic Speed 4 is certainly not stepping on the toes of the Superblast 2. So the Magic Speed 4, it's a workout shoe. It's definitely engineered for your faster runs and your workouts, and it's probably a good budget race day option as well. So yeah, just the geometry, certainly engineered for that real fast stuff. Doesn't feel very good at jogging. Feels a bit clunky, and it's probably a bit too stiff. Whereas Superblast 2, yeah, still super versatile because it's so lightweight. However, this one is certainly not engineered towards the faster type or the faster end of running. So can you use it for your workouts? You probably could, but the Magic Speed feels much better at a workout, much better at faster speeds than this one. This one for me, it's your daily miles and your long run, and it's just comfort, and it's just a really safe, stable shoe. So you pretty much can do it all, but this one is certainly doesn't feel as fast as the Magic Speed. And just looking back at these two shoes and how they perform for me, well, I'm certainly wanting more out of the Superblast, especially for the price and the reputation this shoe comes with. I know the foam does take a little bit of time, certainly for some people, for the lighter people, to get going. But I'm surprised how long. Like, I'm still wanting more out of this. Still, for me, it still feels a bit too firm. And it's just, yeah, it's just not that exciting, to be quite honest. Like, yes, it's responsive, it's stable, but I'm just not sinking into this foam enough, and I'm not getting enough bounce as what I'm expecting. So I think the other one is softer, even though I've got a lot more Ks in it. But for me, at this stage, I feel like I should be getting more out of the Superblast, more enjoyment, but I'm just not. It still feels really firm to me. And that's concerning because I had this one on a 2.5 hour long run the other day, and it felt a bit too firm at the end. I'm like, oh, I wish I had something softer on my foot. Whereas the Magic Speed, I was definitely not in love with it when I first got it out of the box, but it come good. So it did soften up nicely, and I got getting bounce, and I really quite enjoy the ride when I'm using this shoe for the right reason. So when I'm running fast in it, it actually feels quite good, and it is enjoyable to run in. But anyway, guys, that's it from me today. Hopefully I've cleared that up for some people who are probably thinking the same thing as me about the Magic Speed and the upgrades that it's got. But if you guys have got any questions of how these two shoes relate, anything I didn't cover, just please ask me anything in the comments below. But anyway, guys, thank you for watching. Make sure you give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time.